All right, so I wanted to get on here and spend the afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about how relaxed I feel, really. So I woke up this morning at about 6 o'clock and slept about 3 hours last night. Spent the last few days just like not sleeping at all. Very restless nights, lots of thoughts, lots of things just like racing through my mind. If you've been to my webpage and checked it out, you'll see like I put a lot of thought into everything that I wanted to share with the world, and that like I just keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about how can it be better? Why does it get worse? And so I woke up. We went to I went to a town called Moorestown today, which is where I go for ketamine infusions, and I kind of just want to talk about the ketamine infusions and the Botox and what it does for me. And so one of the things that is really amazing is about a couple years ago, 2014, I was on multiple medications. The VA probably had me on about they had tried me on over 75 different medications for mood, for depression, for anxiety, for headaches, for IBS. I mean, you name it, right? I was on it. And they just kept switching my medications up and moving it left and right. And I think about, I'm sorry, that all started about 2010. And so by the time I got to the point where my anxiety was really getting good again, and I was feeling good. I was actually drilling in the Navy Reserves in Buffalo, New York, and this was like right after I got married. So my wife comes into my life, and all of a sudden, like things start looking up. I'm not having near as many problems as I used to have, and so I get to the point where I think my PTSD is like good, and I stopped kind of like going to the doctor. I stopped taking medications and stuff, and the Navy has me convinced that it's okay that I'm not on, that I'm not needing the VA anymore, and that I'm fine, and they've convinced me that I'm back to full standards. And so this is like right after my administrative board. So I'm doing really well. Get in a unit. I start drilling again and start going to training. And I ended up in a unit that took me to Suda Greece. And I'm not gonna lie, I spent 2 years going back and forth to Suda Greece. And to me, that was like freaking awesome. And I really loved it. And I was working with aircraft. But it just was something about it that I just wasn't like connecting with my shipmates when I was out there. And that wasn't normal for me as an aviation bosun mate. We get along really well. And I just was really distant from them. And so I came home and went back to drill weekend and things were good. And then all of a sudden, Liz and I watched a horrific accident happen about 10 feet in front of us. We were walking to the corner of a block, and this car flies through a stop sign and smokes the people right in front of us. And the girl flies up in the air and lands right in front of me and Liz. And so immediately I go into like my combat medic mode, and I start assessing the situation, and I'm looking to see what's going on. And the driver starts to speak Arabic, and I pick up on the dialogue, and I start getting scared. I was already scared because of the accident, and then I'm like looking in the rooftops for shooters and things that I really never did, but like that that I was like trained to do. So I'm watching for that, and then I just start spazzing out. I started having flashbacks and nightmares and everything, or I started having flashbacks and everything. And so this Marine was walking down the street, and she grabbed me, and she realized what was going on. She walked me away from the scene, and when Liz finished taking care of the victim, and then they got her in the hospital in the ambulance. We decided that I needed to probably go to the hospital too, and I called my aunt and I called my doctor from Buffalo, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like crawling out of my skin, and so they convinced me to go to the emergency room. So I did, and they gave me a couple of they gave me a couple of shots to like kind of calm me down. And the next day I went to the VA. And the next day I went to the VA and I actually ran into my service officer in DC on the process, and I told him what was going on, and Chris was really nice and he was talking to me, and you could tell something was wrong. And I get down to the VA and they didn't want to help me. They told me they didn't do anything for acute care. They didn't do anything to help with things like that. Now they do. Now they have ketamine that they give. They have other procedures they can help with. The only thing they wanted to do was put me inpatient, and I refused to go inpatient. I felt like that wasn't what I needed. I just needed someone that I could talk to, that I could get, that we could like work through what had happened and what was going on, and why all the progress I had made over the last several years like was just crumbling in front of my face. So the VA, I left the VA, I walked out of there, and Liz followed behind me, and she was not happy. She was worried about me and didn't know what was going to happen and thought for sure that I wouldn't see the light of day. So it was right after that I realized that I needed more help than what the VA was willing to give me. And I went to my Navy Reserve Center the next weekend, and I said, something's really fucking wrong with me, and I need help. And so they sent me down to Walter Reed. They assessed me for a line of duty for combat-related injuries for PTSD, and they approved it. They said, absolutely, this kid definitely has post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of being a detention guard in Camp Bucca, Iraq, and Bagram, Afghanistan, and he probably should have been assessed prior to today, and so we approve his line of duty. And so I wrote a statement, and I talked about guarding detainees, I talked about losing my friends to suicide, I talked about issues that I was having, I talked about all types of stuff in it, and they approved it, and they sent me about my way, and I was able to get relief from the Navy for that. And so went to Walter Reed. I checked in. I got a nice doctor, and we immediately started talking about what I had done at the VA. And he was just really appalled at my medication list. He couldn't believe how many different medications that the VA had me on over the years, and he wanted to do more for me. And so we started talking about this new procedure that was kind of hitting the streets called Stellate Ganglion block. Stellate Ganglion block is where they take about a 4-inch needle and they put it right here in your throat, and they go right to where the ganglia is. It's a massive nerve cells, and they take that needle and they inject lidocaine right outside that cluster of nerve cells. And I immediately started like getting relief from that. Stopped having suicidal ideations. I stopped thinking that I wasn't worthy of living anymore, and I started feeling better. Now, when I filed the line of duty, I thought that I could return back to the Navy, and so in my original request, I wrote to the board that I wanted to go to Walter Reed so that I could get treatments that were not available to me at the VA, so that I could return back to naval service. And my boss at the time was a retired 3-star admiral named John Todashek. And John was the chief of Navy Reserves during the time of 9/11, and he was in the Pentagon. In fact, his office was one of them that was kind of destroyed because of the plane crashing. And so John wrote me a really nice letter talking about the way I am and how the nation owed me an opportunity to try to get better. And so John, Admiral Todashek, did a great job, and he did exactly what I wanted him to do. And me, being an aviation bosun mate, wanted to get back to where I could fight fires and work on a flight deck and work with aviation again, because that's my love, that's my passion, that's what I want to do. I'm not a cell guard, I'm not a detainee guard. I'm an aviator. That's my love, my passion. So the Navy approved it. And so when I started seeing the doctors at Walter Reed, it started to become pretty clear that what I was struggling with was going to be a lifetime struggle. It was, I had I had been exposed to several hundred days worth of guarding prisoners and being in charge of a facility and doing the intake for these detainees. And what that meant was on many occasions, we would be assaulted with human feces. On many occasions, we would be assaulted with physical violence. Some occasions, they would riot, and the entire unit would, our entire brigade would, reply or would respond to riots. And all the while, we're in the middle of a combat zone. Rocket propelled mortar flying in whenever you're sleeping at night. When I was in Afghanistan, they're attacking the base on a regular basis. In fact, I was there whenever they attacked and they broke into the compound at the Special Forces facility, right? And so therefore, it wasn't just like we were in this safe prison in the middle of Kuwait. Like, we were doing this in the middle of a combat zone. So I started realizing that I had issues that were not going to be fixed right away, and it was going to take time and effort. And I started realizing, as my doctor started explaining it to me, was I wasn't talking about my issues. I was very safeguarded. I didn't want to, and I still don't. I'm not to the point where I'm ready to talk about what I experienced in those prisons, and I don't know when I will be. And so they continue to haunt me. I still continue to have nightmares and anxiety from it, and it causes me severe migraines as a result of being, we were exposed to multiple blast exposures while we were there. I lived downrange from burn pits, and so there's just a lot that compounds on top of like being mentally strained every day. So my doctors at Walter Reed, they explained it to me a little bit better than the doctors at the VA. And they said, hey, listen, like, we're not the VA. It's not our job to put you back in the field. It's our job to be honest with you. And they were very honest with me. And they explained to me, like, you're never going to go back into the Navy. You can't. It'll kill you if you do. Further military service will put a coffin on your grave. And we understand that that's going to be hard for you. And so they started treating me, my denial ultimately, because I wasn't going to be able to serve anymore. And so while I originally started this whole process because I didn't want to not be in the Navy, I started this process because I wanted to continue my service. I wanted to ultimately be a first class and a chief petty officer, maybe even a warrant officer or something. And I thought I could still do it. And I thought I was strong enough to do it. But if anything that history had taught me was, since 2010 when I was discharged till 2014, that 4 years was a very rough time. I had tried to commit suicide. I had thought about suicide endlessly. I had written plans, and I just wasn't ever going to be the sailor that I wanted to be. I had struggled with my weight consistently. I would work out and I would lose weight, and then I would get depressed, and then I would gain weight. And so being in the Navy just wasn't going to be in the cards for me anymore. So that's how the LLD worked. So the line of duty, if you read the document, I wrote this very compelling letter of why I felt that I should get a line of duty for combat service, and why they should give me an opportunity to get better so that I could return to the fight. And I had some people supporting me to do that. I don't think my wife supported me to do that. I don't think my family supported me to do that. But it's what I wanted. So how did they want to get there? Well, they wanted to try new procedures. They wanted to get me off medication. And so they started me on this procedure, like I was telling you about, stellate ganglion block, where they put the needle in your neck, right inside the cluster of your nerve cells. They put the lidocaine there. And I'm telling you guys, minutes after they pulled the needle out, I felt like there was a weight taken off of my shoulders. I felt like I could breathe. I felt like when I went in, there was like a giant standing on my chest. And when that needle came out, he stepped off. And it was the most amazing feeling. I had felt relief for the first time in years, since before I'd get deployed. And so they kept doing the Stellate Ganglion block. It didn't like hold very well. I don't know why. Some people can do it and they only do it once. Some people can do it and they do it every 6 months. Mine seemed to only last about 3 or 4 months. I think a lot of it is I'm fighting the Navy and I'm constantly being reminded of what I'm dealing with. And so I'm not able to really let go of what's there, because every time I want to let go, the Navy sucks me back in. It's like The Godfather, right? So just when I think I'm gonna get out, they suck me back in, and I probably got that wrong because I'm horrible at shit like that. So I started doing that, and then I realized that my anxiety and my migraines were still getting worse, but I wasn't depressed. Like I wasn't depressed. I didn't want to kill myself anymore. I wanted to enjoy my family. I wanted to enjoy my life, and so I told the doctor that. He's a great doctor, and he said, "Well, hey, there's this other new procedure we want you to try. It's called ketamine infusions." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" That's that drug from the 60s. That's what everybody used to do, like, whenever they would get high and stuff, right? Trip out. Am I going to go back to Woodstock? And he laughed at me, and he said, well, kind of. And I was like, well, great. I guess I really am. So we talked about it. So what they do with the ketamine infusion, and like I sent the video today, and I was actually... The infusion had just started whenever I went live earlier. So whenever you seen me do the video earlier, Liz did the video, and we didn't go live because we didn't know what I would say. But I was in the middle of the ketamine infusion right there. I'm very coherent during the process. It's not scary. There's nothing scary about it. I'm not danger of any sort from it. Whenever the ketamine stops going through the drip, then the ketamine's done. It stays in my body maybe for like a couple hours, or until I pee it out or something, but it's really not, it's nothing. And so they push the ketamine, and today when I went in for my ketamine infusion, I was a disaster. I've been a disaster since Friday. And I apologize for that. I'm sure it was loud. And so I've been a disaster since Friday. And so what did I do on the drive up there? I picked a fight with my wife. That was a good time, right? So I know she's watching. So I picked a fight with my wife. What did we fight over? Was it money? Was it the kids? Was it the dogs? No. No, it was none of that. It was just, I was just being a dick because I was in a bad mood. And so I started picking on her about her career. And that's not right, and I shouldn't do that. I love my wife. And I love her career, and I support everything she does. But for some reason, when I get like that, I just don't know what's going on. So I get in, shaking, legs going 1,000 miles a minute. I'm a fucking basket case in there. So what's one of my biggest fears? Needles. So the first thing that happens is they come in and they go, hey, we've been approved to do your Botox. So we're going to do your Botox now. And so 36 needles across my forehead, right around the back of my ear, down here in my jaw, like 12 more across the top of my head. And that's supposed to prevent my headaches from happening again. And I'm not going to lie, it hurts like frick whenever they do it, but it makes me feel better. And it prevents my migraines from coming on, and it's amazing. So we're going to try some new stuff with that, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that later, and I'll let you know what that's like. But they're going to try some new drips to see how long they can make the Botox work. My lines will be gone. I won't have any more lines anymore, so that'd be kind of cool. And so the ketamine. So after I like freak out over that, and I had to like stand up every 5 seconds and walk around the room, then sit back down. She'd poke a few more holes in my head, and then I'd stand up. I'd walk around, a few more holes in my head. Um, the doc came in and was asking me how I was doing, and I told him, I was like, I'm a disaster. I picked a fight with my wife, and I'm really upset about this decision, and I just can't shake it. I can't calm down. I can't get my mind off anything else. And he's like, well, let's up your dose a little bit. And I was like, all right, cool. So doc comes in, he ups my dose, and the ketamine starts, and I'm watching the 1966 Batman version, and the next thing I know, I'm like in the Batman show, and it's kind of funny. And as soon as it's over, like I just woke up, and I just like looked at Liz, and I was like, I feel better. Like it was like, again, it was like I couldn't breathe because there was like a giant standing on my chest, and then all of a sudden, like I could breathe again, and I felt like a normal person, and I felt like I could do anything, and I think she could see it. I think we both could, and it's just amazing how it works. And so I felt really good. I feel really good. So we drove home. Usually I'm like on edge when Liz drives. I love my wife, but I don't love her driving. And so we drove home. She drove us home. And I came home, and I've kind of just been relaxing here in my chair and watched a little bit of TV. And I've just not been excited. I've not been like on edge. I just feel good. I feel calm. I feel collected. I feel like I can take things on with like a clear head right now, and that's what's important. So, so I guess like the point of all of this is like I wanted to explain to you about the line of duty and why it started, and there is some discrepancies in it. And so the first discrepancy, and this is what the Navy holds against me, is the fact that that 3-star admiral claims that I'm one of the best sailors that the Navy had because I was the best employee that he had, and I wanted to be in the Navy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with changing my mind on that. I felt like I betrayed the Navy a little bit when I made the decision about 8 months later to ask to no longer be in the Navy. But I believe that's why they sent me to Walter Reed. I think they sent me to Walter Reed to find that out, if I was going to be able to return back or not. And I think the doctors there did a really good job of helping me understand why further military service would be bad for me. I'm a hell of a veteran advocate, guys. I love fighting for veterans, and I'll do it every day for the rest of my life. Fighting for veterans and fighting, and being in the Navy are two different things. Working on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, sitting behind the desk of a computer, like processing whatever they want me to process, and then being on Capitol Hill and advocating for veterans, two different things. They're not even one and the same. And so so that's that. That's kind of my update for today. So today I just kind of wanted to talk about what I did today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, my line of duty, how this all started. Tomorrow we'll talk about the medical board, and we'll go over that, and I'll explain it to you, and we'll do that. I mean, look, I'm no lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but I know what's right and wrong. And in reviewing my case, I can't find where I'm wrong. I'm not, because like really it's my story, and so there isn't anything that I'm wrong about. But I don't see where my doctors are wrong, right? So like that's the part that's confusing about this. So the Navy is more than welcome to dispute me and dispute anything that I say, and I welcome it. That's what being a professional is all about. If the Navy wants to dispute anything that I have to say about them or anything about my service, I welcome it. But I don't think they get the opportunity to dispute my doctors that they've hired to assess me. And they definitely don't get the opportunity to ignore them. So that's where my fight is in this. So I'm not fighting this because I think I'm right or I think I'm wrong. I'm fighting this because medical evidence is on my side. Scientific evidence is on my side, and I'm not going to give up this fight. So as I've dubbed my, as I've dubbed in my, my fighting, my fight chant on this is, I have yet begun to fight. And last week I was at the tomb of Davy Jones, and I said Davy Jones. I was at the tomb of John Paul Jones, and I was checking it out, and he talked to me. And I think that when I was at the Naval Academy last week, and I knew that this was going to happen, and I just didn't know that at the end of the week I was going to be here. But Wednesday, whenever I was there, and I was talking to Captain Jones, and I was telling him how grateful I am that he founded the United States Navy, and how I was glad that he was there at the Naval Academy. And we had a little chat about service. And I'm not going to let him beat me. So I have yet begun to fight. The Navy doesn't understand how much fight I have in me, and I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share it with you every day. So that's my update. Tomorrow we'll talk about medical evaluation. So just to recap, Stellate ganglion block, ketamine infusions. Didn't get an opportunity to get them until I went to the Walter Reed Medical Facility. VA didn't offer them at the time. The VA does allow it to be paid for now, so I am able to go to a civilian provider so that I don't have to go to Walter Reed all the time. But it's a mess, guys. I shouldn't have to fight this hard. I shouldn't have to fight this hard whenever I have the medical documents to back me. So I appreciate everyone's love and support. I look forward to sharing this with you. Like I said, I may not go live every day, but I'm going to try to go live as much as possible. I take these, I put them onto YouTube, and then I share them on the Facebook page, on the web page, and other places. My house is obviously possessed. I don't know if you've just seen the lights flicker on and off. So I put these on the YouTube page, and then I take that and then I share it on the website for everyone to see. I'm starting a legal fund, and I'm going to fight this. So I appreciate your help. This is kind of weird that the lights are flickering on and off. So, all right, guys, I will see you all about the fleet.